Well, this fellow could very well be the administration's biggest nightmare because Darrell Issa has promised to look into everything and everyone connected to any spending at any time under, well, this president, and that includes a lot of folks. Darrell Issa is joining me right now, one of the new power players in Washington. Very good to see you, sir. Another one, by the way, without a coat. But that's
I'm
okay.
a Californian. I don't even own one.
Please. Now I feel like next time I'm going to come in a bathing suit and scare viewers off. Let me ask you a little bit about procedure here, because you were telling me, I mean, all the committee-ships are in place, the leadership positions, but none of the minority positions as yet, at least not all of them. Right. And I was asking you that dumb parliamentary question as to whether you can proceed when you don't have that.
Well, right now we have a ranking member, Elijah Cummings. So we're working with his staff, he's hiring staff, and we're negotiating very minor changes, actually beneficial changes for the minority to the rules. So we'll have his agreement, but customarily we'll give a reasonable amount of time for Mrs. Pelosi to name the people on that committee. Once they do that, we're prepared to move forward very, very quickly.
You caught a whole lot of hell, Elijah Cummings among them, saying, you know, when you're seeking out the business community's advice about what they want or what they want to get rid of, that you essentially look like a tool of this. I know what was really going on there, but I want you to explain that.
Well, first of all, I've been 10 years out of day-to-day being a CEO and running a company. I need people who today are making decisions to employ or not to employ Americans. So we send out 150 letters, many of them to the exact same people that the president had to the White House, CEOs and so on. And we want them to tell us where the job creation would happen if we did X. In some cases,
so it wasn't the opposite. Like, what can we get rid of to make your life easier?
Well, in some cases it will be. As you know, it's not my committee's track, but right now there are hundreds of billions of dollars of investment overseas that doesn't come back here because they don't want to pay a 35% tax on it, and they're not supposed to have to. Well, I'd like foreign investment from American companies that now sits overseas to come back to America. Otherwise, it's going to be invested in foreign factories and foreign workers. That's one that's pretty easy. I was up in Silicon Valley, and that resonated everywhere. Guys, just figure out a way to allow us to bring the money back.
What did they tell you?
Well, you know, what they said was, you're giving us a choice. Pay 35% or invest it overseas and pay zero, because we've already paid foreign taxes on it. Of course, we're not, Cisco, these other companies are not going to bring back money they made overseas to the United States. And yet, where do we want the U.S. dollars invested? We want it invested in the U.S. That's just one example. But you know, President Obama said something that I quote constantly because it's the most profound thing said by any administration. He said there's no such thing as shovel-ready. Well, he discovered that. The American people have known for years that you can do a nuclear power plant in France, but you can't do one in the U.S. We need to be shovel-ready. We need to be able to do a project in just a year or two if we want to have investment in America.
Well, you mentioned the president, Congressman. Indications are on Friday he is going to be going after, we're talking about your to-do list there, but I do want to expound on the president because he's talked Friday about changing. A lot of members of his economic team talked tonight that Paul Volcker is leaving. And he's going to be meeting with the Chamber of Commerce. He seems to be doing a lot of the stuff you guys have been demanding.
Look, these are all steps in the right direction. My meeting with the vice president was all about jobs in the economy, all about how the stimulus money had been spent and accounted for, and how we found that we could get rid of a lot of fraud and waste in government if we worked together. So there are a lot of good signs. You know, my job...
But you're still holding his feet to the fire. There's talk that you're going to have all these investigations going, are you?
I am. But, you know,
so they'd say, well, that's just a waste of time.
Look, I want them to hire the accountants so they can verify what we hear so that we can save the American people's tax dollars.
So there are going to be a slew of hearings and all that?
Of course there are going to be a slew of hearings.
Really?
The only way we find out things is to have people come in and tell us what they know. But what
is the real goal of that just to slow them down now?
No, not at all. My committee has to cajole people by putting out waste and causing people to change it. I intend on having all 74 Inspector General's reports be part of our record, because this is administrative appointed people confirmed by the Senate who, in fact, are telling us where to make changes. And by the way, it doesn't start with President Obama. Our investigations are going to go back at least to the beginning of President Bush, because there's an awful lot of waste and losses that occurred there that are still occurring.
Will you do just as many investigations on Bush as with Obama?
Perhaps more.
Really?
Absolutely. But it's not about the president. It's about the bureaucracy.
Understood. Very good seeing you, Congressman. Thank you very, very much.
Keep the coat. You'll need it later in the year.
You told me I looked like Mikhail Gorbachev before.
No, you look better.
That was a low blow. And that's why this interview could have been a very friendly interview, but you kind of, you sort of greased the skids.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. All right.